Good morning. I know I've done a few satire videos recently, but again, I just want to offer a rather more serious one. I don't quite know how to address this one. It's been going through my mind that within human beings, there are almost the best characteristics we can appeal to, but there are also the worst. It strikes me that a lot of appeal of the Tories and the far right comes from appealing to the worst in human beings. Let me just kind of talk about that for a moment, and let's pick a current thing to pin it down to. Right, 1995. Long time ago for all of us, certainly for me. Not long after our first son was born. Yep. 1995. Boris makes these comments about illegitimate children, mothers trying to just simply, I suppose, get on the council house list by having children to nameless fathers, and why should other people have to pay, right? I'm going to pick that as just one example of numerous things that he said. Do you know what I think that appeals to in people? I don't think it appeals to any kind of sense of justice or fairness. Although, in a way, I think behind that comment, he's saying, this is really unfair. Behind that comment, he appears to be supporting traditional marriage. And interestingly enough, after that, he goes on and votes for, women's issues, rights for women and stuff like that. So two totally contradictory faces. The public face of Boris and maybe the other public face of Boris. But they kind of make me think a little bit about what part in humanity are these kind of feelings appealing to? Or even these statements, what part in us can they possibly be activating, appealing to? I think actually an incredibly unpleasant part. I think that's appealing to a part in human nature that seeks to be selfish rather than supportive, that seeks to kind of make ourselves feel good, because there are always people lower down the social order who we can moralize to, who we can feel better than them. I also think a lot of what the Tories and the far right appeal to in human nature, not necessarily in the mind, but just in human nature, is this desire to feel powerful. In 1984, George Orwell says the one thing that the party had done is that they had robbed you of all power over the natural world. The only thing that you had left, the one kind of central thing that you could do, was to hate. And mixed in with that hate, almost a part of that hate, is naturally channeled human aggression. That's kind of what the Tories appeal to, yeah? I could almost imagine, like in 1984, where Orwell talks of the ministry arranging hate week. I could imagine Boris and the Tories putting single mothers on benefits forwards to be particularly hated this week. I could imagine that, yeah. Because again, it is appealing to something very dark in human nature. Something very powerful. When people live in a world where they feel increasingly personally powerless, where they feel as though they have no real control over their own lives, when their lives apparently are run by corporations, when this medium that you see even me using right now constantly screams at you, think this, do this, buy this, that hatred within people is very it's very easy to kind of mobilize, and it's a force, isn't it? Think how often the far right talk about using force. Also, think in Boris's 1995 piece, a long time ago, I agree, he talks about a man not being able to, I think he uses the word, control that kind of woman. That comes again from a very base desire. Misogyny is part of that. Misogyny is very much part of that statement. A feeling of control, a feeling of command. Now, men who are suffering that, they really are suffering something. It is a kind of suffering. Men that experience those feelings, well, they are as much men, true men, as others. But men who experience that often get those experiences from a very deep-seated, nasty kind of side in their nature. It seems to me that being Tory as well is a part of being nasty. Being Tory is a part of being nasty, of having an attitude, and you've only got to look around in the streets or just accidentally bump into somebody, as I did yesterday, and they glare at you with an attitude, yeah? It's a vicious and it's a violent world out there. And maybe those are the kind of people who vote Tory because it chimes with their kind of internal self. It chimes with the Daily Hail outraged self. It chimes with the self that really doesn't feel much of a sense of value themselves, don't really feel that they're worth anything, don't really feel that they've made anything, don't feel as though they count for anything. So one way they can make themselves feel better is to hate a particular race, to despise a particular minority, to tread down those who believe that they are under them, and therefore they will get higher by treading these people down. Yeah? What I'm trying to say in this video, obviously, please vote Labour. Save our NHS. There's no other way to do this. Yeah. But I'm saying that a lot of this on the far right and on the right in general comes from rather the better, the higher, the more noteworthy, the more spiritual, decent part of people. A lot of what the Tories are gaining from and building on is this lower, aggressive, nasty desire. Even down to, going, oh, well, I think it's right that a claimant is sanctioned because they were 2 minutes late for an interview. Even down to the base comments that Tories make constantly about things like, I think the disabled should be put down. That comes from somewhere really nasty in people. Just think about that. I know it's probably not the world's most fascinating video and it's getting on for about 12 minutes, but I just wanted to say it, really. I see so much of that in the world. And hopefully, by bringing in Labour for the many, not the few, maybe we can step beyond that into something good and true and community-based and helpful and caring and meaningful. Perhaps we can. Please vote Mike Smith-Clare, Labour, if you're in Great Yarmouth. Bye.